My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the greatest sources of pain in life is depending on people for our happiness. We expect others to stay, to care, to understand us, and when they don't, our hearts break. But the more you chase validation, the more disappointed you become. Real peace begins when you stop expecting from people and start finding comfort in Allah instead. The Prophet ﷺ taught us that the strongest believer is the one whose heart depends only on Allah, because when you rely on Him, you don't fear being abandoned, ignored or forgotten. You don't need constant attention or approval to feel valuable. You learn to stand alone with dignity, to heal without begging, and to smile without needing the world to approve. Being happy alone doesn't mean isolating yourself. It means building a heart that is complete with or without the company of others. Because when Allah is enough for you, no one can make you feel empty. Happiness comes from Allah, not from people. True happiness begins when the heart stops demanding from creation. Most people don't realize how much suffering they carry simply because they expect others to make them feel valued. You give people the authority to decide your worth by craving their approval. You hand them control over your mood, your self-respect, and even your sense of purpose. Yet people are changeable, fragile, inconsistent. How can something imperfect fill your heart perfectly? Real happiness is not found in the unreliable, it is found in the one who never changes. People can comfort you, but they cannot complete you. They may love you today and be distant tomorrow. They may understand you in one moment and misunderstand you the next. No matter how sincere someone is, they cannot carry the weight of your emotional needs forever. Human beings were not created to keep your soul alive. That responsibility belongs to the one who breathed life into you. Happiness collapses the moment you build it on mortal hearts instead of the eternal. When you seek happiness from people, you make your emotions dependent on their reactions. If they praise you, you feel good. If they ignore you, you feel worthless. If they change, you break. You spend your life trying to keep others close so you don't lose yourself. But the soul that depends on people is always anxious, always chasing, always terrified of being forgotten. It is not people you need to hold on to, it is Allah. The heart was created to be at peace only when it connects to its creator. You can fill it with entertainment, work, friendships, relationships or achievements, but it will still hunger for something deeper. The heart is like a lock, and the world offers many keys, yet none of them fit except the remembrance of Allah. The moment you turn back to Him, you feel a familiarity like you're finally home after wandering for years, trying to fit in places not meant for your soul. Happiness is not loud. It doesn't come from being seen, admired, or surrounded by people. It comes quietly, like a secret conversation between you and Allah. It appears in sujood, when your forehead touches the ground and your heart finally stops pretending to be strong. It appears when you recite Quran and feel your chest soften as though Allah Himself is answering your confusion. Happiness lives in the unseen moments where your heart connects to its source. When Allah becomes your source of happiness, you stop putting pressure on relationships. You don't need people to constantly reassure you. You don't panic when someone pulls away. You don't break when someone leaves. You can love with kindness without being dependent. You can care without losing yourself. You can give without expecting anything back. Love becomes purer because it is not built on need, it is built on sincerity. The irony of life is that the more you depend on people for happiness, the more they disappoint you. And the more your heart depends on Allah, the more Allah brings the right people into your life without you chasing them. When the soul becomes rich with remembrance, the world becomes a gift instead of a requirement. You are happy with or without company. You are stable with or without attention, because your heart has already found its nourishment. Many people fear loneliness not because they are alone, but because their happiness is external. They need noise to distract them, affection to feel worthy, and attention to feel alive. But loneliness becomes peaceful when your heart is accompanied by Allah. You no longer need company to escape yourself. You become friends with your own soul. You are no longer running from silence, because silence becomes a place where Allah fills you with calmness. Allah does not ask you to isolate yourself, only to free your heart from depending on creation. You can enjoy people, work, success, and family, but your happiness should not collapse if they change. True emotional freedom is when everything you love enhances your connection to Allah, not replaces it. When the heart is full of Allah, life becomes balanced. You love others without losing yourself, and you stand strong without needing anyone to hold you. When you choose Allah over people, you do not become detached, you become complete. You stop using others as emotional bandages. You stop begging for support. You stop expecting others to heal your emptiness. You start giving love from a place of abundance instead of need. Happiness becomes a relationship with Allah that strengthens every relationship around you. Love becomes healthier when it is not feeding your insecurities. Happiness grows every time you worship with sincerity. Salah is not just a ritual, it is medicine. Dhikr is not repetition, it is nourishment. Quran is not recitation, it is oxygen for a suffocating soul. When you are distressed, the Quran removes heaviness. When you feel lost, dhikr anchors you. When you are overwhelmed, salah clears your heart like rain washing dust from a window. The heart is most alive when it remembers its creator. It is not the world that makes life beautiful, it is gratitude. Even small blessings become precious when you see them through Allah. A simple cup of water tastes sweeter. A quiet moment becomes meaningful. A small act of kindness feels profound. Gratitude does not change your life, it changes your vision. And when your vision changes, your life suddenly feels rich without needing more. The world constantly tells us that happiness depends on achievement, popularity, love, or wealth. But the heart knows better. It doesn't crave applause, it craves peace. It doesn't crave ownership, it craves contentment. It doesn't crave being surrounded, it craves being understood. And no one understands you more than the one who created you. Allah knows the contradictions in your heart, the battles in your mind, and the secrets behind your tears. A meaningful life begins when you ask less from people and more from Allah. Instead of saying, make me happy, say, make me grateful. Instead of saying, take away my pain, say, give me strength. Instead of saying, change them, say, purify my heart. Happiness is not having perfect circumstances, it is having a heart that trusts its Lord in every circumstance. When your happiness comes from Allah, the highs of life do not intoxicate you and the lows do not destroy you. You become balanced. You don't become arrogant when blessed, and you don't become hopeless when tested. You see blessings as opportunities to thank Allah and trials as invitations to return to Allah. Your heart is not controlled by swings of emotion, it is anchored by faith. You stop trying to make everyone love you. You focus instead on becoming someone Allah loves. You stop needing compliments to feel confident. You stop needing attention to feel seen. You stop letting people define you. You begin to define yourself by how close you are to Allah. The world's judgment becomes irrelevant compared to Allah's acceptance. And that shift brings peace deeper than applause ever could. The heart that depends on Allah becomes a giver. It comforts others without expecting comfort back. It supports others without seeking recognition. It loves without controlling. It forgives without bitterness. Such a heart is powerful because it has stopped needing anything from creation. It serves Allah through serving people, but it does not serve people to feed a starving ego. It becomes a source of light instead of a seeker of validation. When you feel empty, it is not a sign you need more people, it is a sign you need more connection with Allah. When the soul is unfulfilled, it begins to drain relationships, jobs, and pleasure for meaning, but nothing created can fill a void that was designed to be filled by worship. The emptiness you feel is not a flaw, it is a compass pointing you back to your Lord. Do not run to the world when your heart is hurting, run to Allah. Do not search for someone to fix you, ask Allah to heal you. Do not wait for someone to understand your pain, tell Allah what no one else can hear. Happiness flows from being close to Allah, not from being close to people. And the closer you are to Him, the more peaceful you become with or without others. When you finally allow Allah to be your comfort, your support, your listener, your provider, your refuge, your friend, happiness stops being fragile. No one can break you with their absence, and no one can control you with their presence. You stop living for attention. You stop fearing rejection. You stop chasing love, because the heart that finds its happiness in Allah becomes unbreakable, complete, and beautifully free. Let go of expectations to protect your peace. Most of our emotional pain does not come from what people do to us, but from what we expect them to do. We assume others should care the way we care, understand the way we understand, or love the way we love. When they don't, we feel betrayed. But the real betrayal comes from our own expectations. We create an image of how someone should behave, then punish ourselves when they act according to who they really are. Peace begins when you stop demanding from people what they never promised to give you. Expectations are invisible contracts you write without the other person's consent. You expect a friend to check on you, a family member to appreciate you, or a partner to always understand you. Yet you never asked them and they never agreed. When they fail to fulfill your expectations, you call it disappointment, but it's really the collision between reality and imagination. Letting go of expectations doesn't make you cold, it makes you free. Letting go of expectations does not mean you stop loving people, it means you stop suffering because of them. You can care without demanding care back. You can be sincere without needing reciprocation. You can do good without waiting for applause. When your heart no longer waits for others to complete it, you experience a love that isn't heavy, a friendship that isn't exhausting, and a life that isn't full of emotional debt. When you stop expecting from people, your relationships become healthier. You begin to appreciate what they give instead of criticizing what they don't. You become grateful for sincerity instead of hunting for perfection. You start valuing effort instead of measuring flaws. You realize that no one is obligated to heal your wounds, carry your emotions, or live up to a version of themselves you have in your mind. Acceptance is the soil where peace grows. Expectations turn kindness into currency. When you do something good hoping to receive something in return, you end up disappointed. But when you do good for the sake of Allah, the heart becomes weightless. You no longer say, I did this for them, and instead you say, I did this for him. Your reward is no longer delayed because Allah sees what others overlook. You free yourself from the emotional debt of waiting for humans to repay you. The less you expect, the more you observe. You begin to see the real nature of people without the blur of desire. You see who loves genuinely, not because they give you everything, but because they try. You see who cares through small gestures, not dramatic expressions. You understand that love is not obvious in words alone. Sometimes it's hidden in subtle patience, quiet understanding, or silent loyalty. Letting go of expectations sharpens your vision of sincerity. When you expect others to never hurt you, you forget they are human. Humans are imperfect, emotional, forgetful, and sometimes selfish, just like you. Expecting flawlessness creates pressure, resentment, and emotional distance. But when you allow people to simply be human, you forgive with ease, let go without bitterness, and love without fear. Imperfection stops being a threat and becomes a reminder that we all need mercy. Letting go of expectations doesn't mean accepting disrespect. It means understanding that you cannot control how others behave, but you can control what you tolerate. You can love someone and still walk away if their presence destroys your peace. You can care deeply and still choose distance if staying means losing yourself. Peace is not gained by being passive, but by setting boundaries without resentment. Expectations make your happiness dependent on the actions of others. When they don't meet your standards, your mood collapses. You let someone's behavior define your day, your worth, even your identity. Letting go of expectations is reclaiming responsibility for your own joy. You stop waiting for someone to make you feel seen or appreciated. You begin to nurture your own peace, protect your own heart, and take ownership of your emotional life. When you release expectations, gratitude grows naturally. You begin to notice the little things, the small effort someone makes, the imperfect yet sincere attempts to care, the unexpected kindness. Life becomes richer because you no longer overlook blessings trying to find perfection. You stop taking actions personally and start receiving them as gifts. Gratitude replaces entitlement and peace replaces disappointment. The mind that expects constantly is always calculating, they should have called, they should have helped, they should have supported me. But the heart that surrenders says, if they do, Alhamdulillah. And if they don't, I still have Allah. You stop measuring relationships based on who stays or who gives. You start measuring life based on who brings you closer to your Lord and who brings you closer to your own peace. When you let go of expectations, you stop performing for people. You dress, speak, act, serve and live for Allah's approval, not the world's applause. You don't need to impress anyone. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need appreciation as fuel. You are no longer emotionally hungry because your sustenance comes from worship, not validation. Your identity becomes grounded in sincerity. Expectations mislead us into believing others owe us loyalty, attention, or understanding. When they fail, we often feel betrayed, but the real betrayal is expecting human beings to act like angels. No one can meet every need you have. Allah designed the world this way, so your heart always has something to return to, something higher, something eternal, something unbroken. If people could fulfill you completely, you would never seek Him. Letting go of expectations reveals an important truth. Love without need is the purest form of love. When you don't cling, you don't fear loss. When you don't demand, you don't feel disappointed. You give freely, forgive easily, and walk away peacefully when necessary. You don't use love to control. You don't use affection to trap. You let people be who they are, and you choose who you are around them without emotional chains. Peace doesn't come from fixing others, it comes from fixing your own attachment to them. You cannot force someone to be consistent. You cannot demand them to care the way you do. You cannot teach them your heart's language. You can only choose to protect your peace by releasing the need for them to be someone they're not. Liberation is not changing people, it is changing your expectations of them. Many relationships fail not because love disappears, but because expectations suffocate it. When love becomes a checklist, it stops being love. When sacrifice becomes demand, it stops being sacrifice. When attention becomes obligation, it stops being sincere. Letting go of expectations allows love to breathe again. It turns duty back into generosity and effort back into affection. The heart that expects less loves more. It doesn't keep score. It doesn't manipulate. It doesn't hold grudges waiting for compensation. It gives without fearing loss because it trusts that everything given for Allah's sake returns through Allah's mercy. With this mindset, you stop treating people like investments and you start treating them like blessings, temporary, imperfect, and valuable. When you stop expecting people to keep you happy, you begin to cultivate happiness from within. You invest in your character, your worship, your skills, your well-being. You become emotionally self-sufficient. You no longer look for someone to fill your silence. You turn silence into a sanctuary. You no longer crave someone to rescue you. You learn to stand with Allah as your support. Strength grows from solitude. Letting go of expectations removes the weight of disappointment and replaces it with acceptance. You begin to live lightly, you forgive more often, you appreciate more deeply, you stop clinging to outcomes and start surrendering to Allah's decree. Life stops being a battle with people and becomes a journey with yourself and your Lord. Peace is not found in controlling others, it is found in mastering your own reactions. The less you expect from people, the more Allah surprises you through them. You stop chasing and Allah sends the right souls to your life. You stop demanding and Allah places love where you least expect. You stop begging and Allah fills your heart with contentment. You realize that peace was never about changing people, it was about letting go of how you thought they should. True freedom is when your heart no longer contracts or expands based on how others treat you. You remain calm when you are praised and calm when you are ignored. You remain gentle when someone loves you and gentle when someone leaves. You interact with others out of kindness, not dependence. And this balance makes you unshakable, because when you let go of expectations, nothing can steal the peace Allah has placed inside you. Build your heart through gratitude and worship. Gratitude is not simply saying Alhamdulillah with the tongue, it is a way of seeing. It is a shift in perspective where you stop looking at what is missing and begin to appreciate what is already there. Life becomes heavy when you chase what you don't have and light when you value what you do. Gratitude turns ordinary moments into miracles, hardships into lessons, and loneliness into intimacy with Allah. It is the lens that transforms pain into growth and blessings into gifts. Worship is not a ritual, it is rehabilitation for the heart. Just as the body needs food to survive, the soul needs salah, dhikr, and Quran to stay alive. You cannot expect peace while starving your soul. The heart becomes restless when disconnected from its creator. And only worship can return it to balance. Salah straightens your inner chaos the way you straighten your body in prayer. Dhikr cleanses your thoughts the way wudu cleanses your body. Worship is nourishment. Gratitude protects the heart from envy. resentment, and despair. When you recognize that every blessing is from Allah, you no longer compare your life to others. You no longer feel threatened by the success of those around you. You stop looking sideways and start looking upward. Jealousy shrinks in the presence of gratitude because you begin to trust that Allah's plan for others does not diminish His plan for you. What is yours will arrive, and what is not will never bring you peace. Worship protects the heart from arrogance. A man can be intelligent, wealthy, influential, or admired, yet without worship, his heart becomes empty. Pride grows in the heart that forgets who gave blessings. Worship humbles you gently. Every bow reminds you that greatness belongs only to Allah. Every sujood teaches your ego to surrender. Allah does not need your worship. You need worship to protect yourself from becoming enslaved to pride. Gratitude turns life into a classroom of blessings. The warmth of sunlight, the taste of water, the laughter of a child, the ability to breathe, think and walk. These are miracles disguised as normalcy. Gratitude trains you to notice. When you notice, you appreciate. And when you appreciate, you love Allah, not just in prayer, but in every moment. Gratitude is not a list, it is a lifestyle of awareness. Worship trains the heart to release control. Human beings chase certainty, but worship teaches surrender. You do your best and leave the rest to Allah. You stop forcing life to obey your plans and start trusting that there is wisdom in delays, blessings in disappointments, and purpose in pain. Worship frees you from the burden of trying to be your own God. It returns you to being a servant with peace instead of a controller with anxiety. Gratitude softens the most wounded hearts. Even in hardship, there are things to be thankful for: a small relief, a kind person, an unexpected smile, a moment of calm, a breath that doesn't hurt. Gratitude doesn't deny pain. It illuminates the light within it. You stop asking, why is this happening to me, and start asking, what is Allah giving me through this? Gratitude turns complaints into lessons and patience into sweetness. Worship softens the heart by bringing you back to your origin. In sujood, you put your face on the ground, surrendering every worry, desire and fear. It is the lowest physical position, yet the highest spiritual elevation. In that moment, you are closest to Allah. Worship is a reminder that no matter how high life takes you, true honor comes from bending your head to the one above all things. Gratitude transforms relationships. When you appreciate people for their efforts instead of criticizing them for their imperfections, your love becomes gentle. You stop trying to change others and start valuing their presence. You notice their kindness rather than their flaws. Gratitude turns relationships into rewards rather than expectations. It teaches you to cherish instead of demand and to love without entitlement. Worship transforms loneliness. Many fear being alone because they do not know how to be with themselves. Worship turns solitude into a sanctuary. It makes silence meaningful and nights peaceful. You begin to enjoy being with Allah, being with your heart, being with your thoughts. Loneliness no longer becomes emptiness, it becomes connection. You stop needing noise to feel alive because your soul